right, graphing inequalities, more specifically linear inequalities. Um, Linear because they're going to be mostly in slope-intercept form, but instead of an equal sign, you're going to get inequality signs. Let's go right into the rules. The rules are probably not going to make much sense at the beginning until we actually put them to use on number 1 and number 2. So on the left, I'm going to show you the rules on whether you're going to do a solid line or a dotted line. So very simple. If you have these two symbols, let me fix that. If you have these two symbols here, if you have less than or greater than, okay, without the equal sign under it, just less than or greater than, you are going to do a dotted line. And I'll give you an example of a dotted line here. Right? I think another word is like perforated or something like that, where it's a dotted line. Now, the other symbols that we have, inequality symbols, are also less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to, right? And the only difference is that it has that little line under it, which adds that equal to part. So this is going to give you guys a solid line. And we're used to solid lines. That's how we've been graphing linear equations, right? Already, we always use a solid line. So really, the only new thing is if you got to use the dotted line when it doesn't have the equal sign involved. Now, another kind of set of rules here that we're going to have to do is, and I'm going to split this in half. Sometimes all the solutions to the inequality are going to be on top of the line. Sometimes they're going to be under the line or in the bottom of the line. So that's really just based off the direction of the inequality. Sometimes I like to call it the alligator. Some of us call it alligator in elementary. So I just want to make sure it helps everybody. So if the inequality sign, whether it has an equal or not, it doesn't matter. It's just if it's facing the y, right? If the alligator is eating the y, right? Some of us remember this as an alligator eating the bigger number. Well, if the alligator is facing your y, or the inequality facing the y, then you're going to shade the top of the line. Shade top. Now, what does that mean, right? So let's say, well, this should be a dotted line. I'm just going to pretend we're graphing on a coordinate plane. Well, we're going to have to shade the top of the line, so we would literally shade the top part of the line. Okay, now, obviously, we're going to have a different scenario. Well, let's say that the y is on the left, but the inequality sign, let's say, is facing the other direction, right? Or let's say the alligator is not eating the y, it's actually eating the linear equation, the slope and the y-intercept. Well, in that case, if the inequality is facing the other direction, then you're going to shade, right? You're going to shade the bottom of the line. This one happens to be less than or equal to, so I know that's a solid line, but this time I'm going to shade the bottom of the line. You know, that's literally really the only new thing that you have to learn, these two rules, because the rest is still graphing equations, same that we've been learning since Target 2. So let me put some of this into use now. Let's start with number 1. I'm already noticing in number 1 that this is going to be a dotted line. I know that because there's no equal sign under there, right? So you can already start thinking before you even graph what you're going to do. So I know this is going to be dotted. And then the inequality is facing the y, right? So I know I'm going to shade the top. I'm just going to write that so that I don't make any mistakes while I graph. Okay, we're going to start with our y-intercept here of -4 down 4, put a dot on the y-axis. Now my slope is 3. I'm going to write it as 3 over 1, so I'm going to move up 3, right 1, starting from my y-intercept, 1, 2, 3, and then to the right 1, there's my dot. I'm going to do another one, 1, 2, 3, and then to the right 1, there's my dot. I wrote down that this is a dotted line, so I'm going to go ahead and draw a dotted line. And I know that I'm going to have to shade the top. So I'm going to just use my highlighter tool. I know these are all the solutions to the inequality. Boom. Any dot that lands in this shaded area would work into that equation. It would be true. It's a solution. Now, because this line is dotted, any dot that lands on the dotted line is not a part of the solution because that line is dotted. That's what that kind of symbolizes. Moving on to number 2, I'm noticing this time this does have an equal sign under it. So I know that this is going to be a solid line. And the inequality is not facing the y, it's facing the other side. So I know that this is going to be a bottom shade. I'm going to shade the bottom, basically. So let's just get right into graphing. I start with my y-intercept of +1, put my dot. My slope is already a fraction, up 2, right 5, up 2, right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Solid line. I wrote my notes earlier. Solid line. I kind of missed the dot there, but we get it. And we're going to shade the bottom. All the solutions to this inequality are down here. Even dots that land on this line are also a part of the solution because that's a solid line saying everything from here, including here and below. Number 1 was saying everything starting here and above, but not, from here over, not on the line. So that's kind of the general concept of graphing inequalities.